let's go ahead and go to our guest in this short segment to break down some of what's happening. Then we'll get the details in the next segment. And this is bigger than just Montana or Texas. This is serious, because you see demonization of patriots and liberty lovers all the time, and it's been happening so much now, we've kind of gotten used to it. It's not a big deal anymore when it happens. You hear about judges in the news saying, I don't allow the Constitution in my courtroom. Well, they should be forced to stand down. They violated their oath. It was 6 years ago I got the secret document that for about a week people didn't believe, until the government finally responded in USA Today and other publications saying, no, that's a real document, saying Ron Paul's basically a terrorist, Chuck Baldwin's a terrorist, Adam Russo is an evil person for his film, libertarians are bad, if you want to get out of the UN, you're bad. These are terrorists, basically. And now it's so ubiquitous that we're just like, oh, that's no big deal. Well, he's got quite a story to tell. Dr. Chuck Baldwin is joined by his constitutional attorney son, Tim Baldwin. They're also co-authors of multiple books that we happen to sell, Romans 13 and more. And they are joining us right now. He's with flatheadlegal.com, Tim Baldwin. And his father, Chuck, joins us. We're going to break in a few minutes, guys, but I saw it in local newspapers. Lawyers want state to investigate prosecutors. And then I heard part of the story through my producer that they're actually, with straight faces, going, basically saying you're not allowed to promote the Constitution, that it's evil somehow, and doing a lot of really weird stuff in their drug task force. So thanks for joining us. Who should speak first, Chuck Baldwin or Tim Baldwin?
Tim should go ahead and take it to try to give you some of the background, Alex.
Yeah,
Tim,
so
give us a basic snapshot.
So for your audience's information on this, I'm a criminal defense attorney in Flathead County, Montana, and I practice in other counties as well. I had a case involving a client of mine where we discovered evidence that the Northwest Drug Task Force agent and a county attorney here were threatening my client's wife and my client to fire me as my client's attorney. And they threatened that if they do not fire me, it would be bad for my client. We actually got a recorded statement, or not a statement, but a recorded conversation that my client's wife released here recently that actually shows the egregiousness of what was going on here. And the reason that was revealed from this officer who was talking to my client's wife was that they do not like Tim Baldwin. They reference my dad running for president in 2008 under the Constitution ticket. They reference being a constitutionalist, as they called it. They reference me defending my client's rights too vigorously.
Tim, I want to stop right there because we're going to come back from break. I'm going to give you both the floor. I want to walk through what happened with the case. We have the audio. I'm going to put it in a nightly news report soon so it's more congruent. But this is how the statists operate. They could be Republicans or Democrats. These are Republicans in this case. Is they want to shut business down, shut freedom down, shut people's right to a lawyer down because of our views. There's an attempt to shut us up, shut us down. And it's what the Nazis did in the build-up to World War II inside Germany. It's how tyranny first starts, and this is just boots-on-the-ground evil. So the headline, lawyers want state to investigate prosecutors, and the audio of it has been released. And why this story is so important is this is local police involved threatening someone who's been charged, saying, you better get rid of your lawyer because you're not supposed to be talking to somebody once there's a criminal case going on and you're the officer involved, get involved in the trial. I mean, this is just incredible. It's official intimidation. They're saying because they're constitutionalist, that's the guy that ran for president, that's the guy politically involved, that's the guy that thousands of people are listening to locally. You don't work with him. And you know this is going on everywhere else. These are probably the 100th people they've done this to. And they just happen to not lie down to it and record it. So you got a defense attorney, totally protected under the Constitution, absolutely sacred, and they're going to people saying, you better let them go or you're in deep trouble so we can throw you in prison. You're not allowed a defense. And these cops are doing this with a straight face with the prosecutor. That's called tyrants. That reminds me of the cases up in Williamson County where they'll have a known person who's innocent. There's been movies made about it, and have the bloody rag, and they even know who the killer is. And just for some reason, they just want to put an innocent man with no criminal record in jail because his wife's been killed. And they knew all along. It's very sick. So imagine, people are like, yeah, if you get involved in the Tea Party or anything, you won't get business. You won't, because if we all start giving each other business, if you start giving publications business or Infowars.com business or our shopping cart business or spread the word about other websites that tell the truth, we'll build our own community. And our community will be popular. And people want to hang out with folks that are into freedom. And pretty soon, we'll take the country back. Just like 1776, but economically and culturally. So there's a culture war against pro-lifers, veterans. Look at how the veterans are being demonized. Think about a coalition. The veterans, the returning veterans, the libertarians, the conservatives, the Christians that want real Christianity, not state-run propaganda. Think if we come together and start working together and praying together and shopping together and teaching each other skills and going out and camping together and just creating community again, that's what'll kill the New World Order, is normal human community. I'm going to shut up now, but they try to build all community around their state-run systems. They don't want us to have our own community. Hey, what are you doing having a barbecue in your backyard with 20 friends over? We're going to do something about that. What are your kids doing playing in the front yard? We're going to call the police on you. They've got all these statists, all these corporate Borg people out there. It's time for us to call them out and get in their face and put heat on them. Now, I'm going to shut up and give Tim Baldwin the floor, constitutional lawyer, to recap and start over. Then we're going to go to his dad, Chuck Baldwin. How dare him run for president and get a record number of votes for a third party, of the Constitutional Party. How dare Aaron Russo found the Constitution Party? He was demonized in the report as well. I've been demonizing others. How dare Ron Paul? They said, cops, you see a Ron Paul sticker, you pull them over. And that's meant to have cops be an agent of intimidation in America against somebody as American as apple pie Ron Paul. No criminal record, highest ethical standards. His bill now passed the House, even though he's out of the House, to audit the Fed. Change the world for libertarian thought, an icon of goodness. No one would dare claim he's bad in any way. A medical doctor, Vietnam veteran, demonized. They demonize good men, folks, because they want to cause a civil war in this country between the police and the military and the constitutionalist movement. And that's why they want to demonize Chuck Baldwin. And it's, again, you're like, oh, it's just some local thing and some cops. No, this is systematic. Now, Tim, I'm going to shut up. You guys have got the floor. You break it down and then throw it to your dad whenever you want.
Okay. So, again, I represent a person by the name of Corey Franklin. And keep in mind, this case was assigned to me from the Public Defender's Office. I have a contract with the state of Montana to represent clients who the Public Defender's Office either cannot for conflict reasons or for overflow work. So this is a contract case from the Public Defender's Office. My client had another attorney prior to my representation of him. I took his cases over. There were two cases. Whenever I received this case, Ken Park was, I learned that Ken Park was the prosecutor in this case. And so as any attorney would do, I'm looking at the cases and I find out that there's hardly any discovery in the files. There was many items missing in the file, such as my client's own statements that were recorded, witness statements, photographs of the crime scene, all kinds of essential discovery was missing. So I sent a message to Mr. Park, and I said, I need this discovery. I also had learned from the prior attorney and my client that there was discussion about Mr. Park dismissing one of the cases because it was factually very weak. In fact, Mr. Park admitted this under oath on September 5th, that he didn't believe he could prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt to the jury, yet he kept prosecuting this case.
And then how dare a lawyer try to actually do his job? Think of it. If a public defender actually did their job, they couldn't be throwing all these innocent people in jail. Please continue.
So I sent him this email asking for discovery, asking him if he was going to dismiss the one case. Well, I get a response from him where he tells me that if I file any motion on behalf of my client, that he would seek the maximum penalty against my client, and that he would also encourage the federal government to charge my client with a charge there was no factual basis for. After I received that email from Mr. Park, it became very apparent to me that Mr. Park had a personal grudge, a personal bias against me, because his response was so arbitrary and really unreasonable, given the fact that discovery had not even really been
Sure, I
given
understand,
at all.
but before we get into all the minutia, the key here is then they send the cops out to the client to say it's because you're constitutionalist. That's the really big enchilada for me. Get into that.
Okay, I'm getting there. So what happened was, after that he sent me that email, I had a conversation with my client's wife, and she told me that she had talked to Mr. Park about his dismissing one of the cases because she even knew that same thing. Well, she told me that during this conversation, he told her, and she filled in an affidavit to this effect, that since Tim Baldwin is your husband's attorney, he will not get any favorable treatment for me whatsoever. And in fact, I'm going to make sure that he doesn't get favorable treatment because Tim Baldwin is his attorney. And she filled out an affidavit to that effect. Well, my client's wife became she became afraid, actually, from the intimidations that she received from this prosecutor. She felt so concerned and so worried that Mr. Park and the county attorney's office would be going after her husband that she was pleading with her husband to fire me as his attorney. In fact, that phone call was recorded by the county jail. I received a copy of that later, and you can hear her desperation telling her husband, you don't want Tim Baldwin because they're going to come after you. You're going to be treated badly, and I can't afford to lose you for the rest of my life.
For those that don't know, clearly, depending on the state law, it's illegal to say, get another lawyer and we'll go easier on you, because then they can only say, go get our buddy who's a lawyer and control the market of lawyers. I mean, this violates so many things, as you guys are saying in the newspaper. Why do you think this is illegal? Because, of course, more of that happened.
Well, first of all, there was a case, actually, that one of my law associates helped file a suit about, where the judges were controlling which attorneys could get work in the county for the public defender's office.
Sure.
And my partner, Phyllis Quatman, and her husband, Jack Quatman, filed a suit. The ACLU got involved. And what ended up happening was the system was completely changed because the judges cannot control who the attorneys are. And the judges cannot control which clients hire which attorneys. And not to mention the fact that, of course, that every person has a right to counsel. The attorney-client privilege is one of the most sacred institutions and protections we have in this country, based on the most fundamental idea of fairness and due process.
Sure.
In the judicial system.
And I mean, now we've got the parallel construction, NSA spying. Everybody knows the courts are getting more and more rigged. And here is an inside example of that. Please continue.
So what happened then after she became so concerned about this, but her husband was insistent, no, I'm going to keep Tim Baldwin as my attorney. I like him. He's working hard for me. I trust him. I am not going to kowtow to Mr. Park's intimidations and his threats against me. So that's what happened. So as a result of this scenario, my client's wife decided that to protect herself from these threats that she received, she was going to record a conversation, or the next conversation she had, with these state officials. And in fact, that's what happened. She had talked to McKeek Johns, who is an agent for the Northwest Drug Task Force team, who happened to be her handler because she was a confidential informant for the Drug Task Force. She talked to him on June 4th. And during that conversation, and that's the recording that you have, and that's what's been released to the public now. But during that 27-minute conversation, you hear this officer do the exact same thing that Mr. Park had done to my client's wife, except it was recorded, so we know exactly what he said, and we see the correlation between what the county attorney's office had said to my client's wife and what the personal experiences that I had already been encountering with the county attorney's office. All of that tied together to what this agent was telling my client's wife, where he makes repeated threats about, if she doesn't fire Tim Baldwin, if Corey Franklin doesn't fire Tim Baldwin, it's going to be bad news for Corey Franklin. That
This is manipulating the judicial process, trying to manipulate a trial. From my research, but you're a constitutional lawyer, isn't this, if proven and we have the tapes, isn't it really a felony?
Well, I think under federal law, there's political corruption acts that you could file it under. That's interesting that you bring that up because we filed a complaint with the AG's office. Tim Fox is our Attorney General here in Montana, and we asked them to investigate this matter, to look into what kind of reprimand or what kind of action would need to be taken to correct the situation. Now, we got a response yesterday late afternoon. I haven't seen it yet, but my staff tells me that they received it and that they have decided that they are not going to pursue criminal charges against Ed Corrigan, the county attorney here, and the deputy county attorney, Ken Park. However, they did say that what we had provided was very troubling and that they had forwarded the information to the proper, or should I say, the authority that we have to correct attorneys in our state.
Well, here's the deal. Some listeners may be saying, why do we care? This is something out in Montana. This is going on everywhere. This is the demonization of the liberty movement. And when they do this stuff, in my view, it's corrupt. It looks like it's violating some laws. We have to get back in their face. That's what'll make them start behaving instead of just, oh, you'll not let me operate and you'll shut us down if we follow the Constitution. I mean, go over specifically what's on this tape. We don't have time to air the whole 27 minutes, but I mean, he's there going, he's a constitutionalist, he's a libertarian. Yeah. I mean, like it's like saying he's a child molester, he's a bank robber, it's just, it's so horrible. Why that Alex Jones promotes auditing the Fed. I mean, it's like, it's so horrible. They want their families to be free. It's so weird how they act like we're dirty words or something when they're the ones that are un-American from their actions.
Well, throughout this 27-minute conversation, there's a consistent theme throughout. And the consistent theme is this. First of all, Tim Baldwin pushes too hard for his clients. He files defense motions, and he doesn't work well with the county attorney's office. One of the statements in particular...
He doesn't roll over and help us set up people.
That's what he said, exactly. He said every other attorney here gets along with us, and we get along with them. And we all try to find a deal that works well for you guys. But Tim Baldwin doesn't do that, and he makes it really hard on all of us. So that's one of the very – and that's almost a –
That's horrible. You actually are a real lawyer. That is very bad.
Yeah. Well, he says other things like, Tim Baldwin has his own political agenda. Tim Baldwin is out for himself. He's going to hurt you. He's going to hurt your family. He's going to hurt your children. He brings up the fact that my dad ran for president under some bull crap ticket, which he didn't use the word crap, under some bull crap ticket. He said that Tim Baldwin is some kind of what do you call it? Oh, he's a constitutionalist, demonizing the fact that I stand up for the rights of my client.
Hey, there's an article today where a major school district refused pocket constitutions to be donated, and then there was a backlash, and they took them. See, we need to keep pushing to then make them refuse them, to point out what traitors they are. We don't lay down, just hoping they'll be our friends. They're the radicals. I want to bring your dad in here, Chuck Baldwin. I mean, Chuck, you heard my rant earlier. Isn't this a window into the quiet whisper campaign going on against the liberty movement behind the scenes?
This is blatant. And what is so amazing about this is as you've already noted, this kind of thing goes on all the time. But here is the significant part of this story. Is the evidence was dumped in Tim's lap. This is what makes this so spectacular. It's one thing to know what's going on instinctively or coincidentally, but now we have the evidence. This is unabashed, true evidence that Tim has come across, and now then is proceeding with. And I want your listeners to understand that if we do not react to this as a community of patriots and Constitution-loving people, if we do not call Tim Fox's office and Ed Corrigan's office, and anytime this comes up on your program, no matter where it's located, if we don't jump on this as like-minded brothers and sisters in the community of patriots, these people are going to completely roll over all of us. What happens in Montana could happen in Texas, could happen in Tennessee, could happen in New Mexico. It could happen anywhere to any person. And the interesting thing about this, these charges that Tim was telling you about, what you haven't got to in the story yet, that the attorney's office, the prosecutor's office, after all this evidence became publicly known to them that Tim had, they dropped the charges against Tim's client, trying to backtrack and retreat from what they were doing. And now what I'm afraid is going to happen is Tim Fox, who's a Republican, first-term Attorney General, he campaigned on the theme of the Constitution. He campaigned on the theme of getting behind the Constitution and standing for the Constitution and doing what is right. That was his campaign theme. Now he's the Attorney General, and he has an opportunity to act on the Constitution and bring justice into the state of Montana. And right now it looks like he's going to sweep it under the rug and not going to do anything about it. And this is the thing that just irks me to no end.
When you have the evidence, like you said, we have them here.
Absolutely. Tim has the evidentiary material that you have in your possession that Tim sent you, and that the other attorneys have, and now the county prosecutor's office has as well. That's why they backed up. That's why they dropped the charges against Tim's client. That's why now they're trying to do damage control, et cetera. And I got a feeling what's going to happen is the AG's office is just going to simply give them a little slap on the wrist, a little letter of reprimand saying, don't be so naughty next time, and this is all going to go away and nothing is going to change, when clearly criminal conduct was taking place here. I mean, this is prejudicial. And can you imagine you're threatening a client with over 20 years in prison because I ran for president of the United States on a third-party ticket, and because Tim, the lawyer in the case, is my son.
It's total authoritarian crazy town stuff. We just skipped this network break because this is so important in the last segment of this week's transmissions with Chuck Baldwin and his son. I mean, you guys have been effective all over the country, waking churches up about the government control, having a huge effect. When you ran for president, it had a huge effect. That's why you're putting those secret government reports. That's why they demonize you. That's why they demonize me and Ron Paul and Rand Paul. But it didn't work. Now Ron Paul, Rand Paul, Alex Jones, Chuck Baldwin, all this stuff is mainstream now. It's scaring the system. Mainstream publications like the Times of London say worldwide libertarianism's taking over, leading out of the U.S. The problem's been the U.S. for a while because tyrants seized us. The solution could come from the U.S. We could turn this around. But expanding on this, if they were setting up communists in a town who weren't trying to hurt people, but even if they were, they deserve due process because next I'll lose my due process. It's better that 10 guilty men go free than one innocent man go to prison. So if they were trying to set up communists like this, I would criticize it, and I have. But this is constitutionalist with sterling records. Next, who knows what they'll do? They might try to set you up or claim criminal things or plant stuff in your house. I mean, this is what goes on. I'm not saying these guys particularly, but to me or to Ron Paul or Rand Paul, there's no telling. We've got to stand together when things like this happen and let the system know, listen, you're not going to run over us because we're loyal Americans. You're not going to demonize us because we actually stand for having a decent country. It's you people that are out of touch, so out of touch, that you think our Constitution is a dirty word. Chuck Baldwin.
Well, see, what most people don't realize, when they think of the court system, they think that both sides have justice in mind. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Politics has no business in the justice system. This is supposed to be about justice. It's about the Constitution, about the rights of man. It's about innocent until proven guilty. And what we have going on here is the politicization of our justice system, where you have politicians who, for their own parochial purposes, are using the justice system to try and manipulate political ends within that situation.
That's called tyranny. That's
exactly what it's called. It's tyranny. It's ungodliness. It's antithetical to everything that America was built on. If we cannot have justice in our local courts, think about this, ladies and gentlemen. If we cannot have justice, if you cannot walk into a courtroom knowing that there's going to be justice as the motivation in any case, if it's all about politics, if it's about agendas, if it's about careers and all these things, then we have lost our country. We're not America anymore. We're not free anymore. We're not a republic anymore. Everything that our founding fathers fought and died for is kaput. This kind of thing is what is, I think, it's the tip of the iceberg, but it reveals the depth of the situation that we have.
That's right. If they sweep it under the rug, it means it's going on in every county, and it's a green light to do more of it. But if somebody gets in trouble for this, it's a red light to all the people that want to use the court system as their own personal cash register or political weapon to beat people over the head and bankrupt people they don't like because they dare promote the Constitution. Since I mentioned it, I want to put the article out of Massachusetts up on screen. Mass School Board rejects, then accepts Constitution booklets. Former resident offered 2,800 copies. That's in the Eagle Tribune. And they were going to give them the little pocket constitutions, that they give out when you visit Congress and stuff. They said, oh, no, this is politically incorrect. We can't accept something this evil. I mean, how have they gotten it to the point where a pocket constitution, in my film Road to Tyranny, squad car video of Abby Newman, no criminal record, naval veteran buying canning supplies in town. They get in her trunk at a checkpoint. They won't let her search it, broad daylight. So they open up the trunk. There's a Patriots game, VHS with Harrison Ford. There's my film, Police State, and there's a pocket constitution. And the state police start hyperventilating like they found a dead baby or something. What type of mind control is this? Where if they see a corrupt government and abortions, they see something good, but they see a pocket constitution, they start hyperventilating. That's like absurdist Kurt Vonnegut stuff. I mean, that's like satire, Chuck.
Well, yeah, and it plays right into the case we're talking about. Now, think about this. The reason that the county attorney and his subordinates were so upset with Tim being the lawyer in this case, think about it. Here's what got him upset. His dad, Chuck Baldwin, ran for president of the United States on a third-party ticket in 2008. That's number one. Number two, Tim and I both, are constitutionalists. That was it. Those two things created the bias, which created the intimidation and the threats.
Well, it's like vampires are scared of crosses. I mean, for us, that's ridiculous. Why would you be against the Constitution? To them, it's really scary.
Yeah, I mean, when you get to a point that you are willing to put people in jail because of the political opinions of the attorney that is representing the case in court, that is no different
than North Korea,
different than what the Nazis did in the 1920s and 30s, and what the communists did under Stalin. There's no difference.
Exactly, and I guarantee you, a lot of our listeners who are great people are so conditioned by evil that this isn't even a big deal to them anymore. I catch myself all the time seeing something horrible, and it's just so par for the course. How do you spiritually, Chuck? I want to go to break and come back in overdrive and get final comment from you and your son and give out the website so people can see more of this. But how do we all get to the point, immersed in evil, where even if we don't like it, we become comfortable with it?
Well, Edmund Burke said all that's necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. And if we want evil to triumph, we do nothing. I think most of your audience are activists. I know
they are. I'm just saying some people out there, even myself sometimes, I just get used to it. It's just, there's just so much of it.
Well, I don't want to ever get used to it. I don't want to get used to it. I'm going to.
No, I totally agree with you.
This stuff.
No, I totally agree with you. What do you pray to God to keep you angry about? I mean, I'm very angry. But I'm saying the stuff happening now, I would have gone crazy 10 years ago.
How much does freedom mean to you, and how much do you want your children to live in a land of freedom?
It means everything.
It means everything to me, too.
We're going to put up on screen the phone number to the Attorney General and to this prosecutor. If folks want to call him, the Attorney General, and say, investigate this more. Don't just reprimand it, because don't just have a verbal reprimand. You can see on the tape, you can hear what happened. And it just shows how out of touch these people are, that they would want to violate somebody's rights, kick a lawyer off, blackball somebody from working just because they feel like it. It shows an enormous entitlement and babiness. And when I was trying to articulate earlier that how do you stay outraged, I stay too outraged. I think about this stuff all the time. I work all the time. Everybody knows that. But still, I catch myself sometimes seeing something outrageous and not getting upset by it. And I realize the general public's like that all the time. I know our audience is super awake. I'm saying out of the general public out there listening, though, there are people going, oh, what's the big deal? That stuff goes on everywhere. If you've gotten to that point, that's why our country's dying. Final comment for 2 minutes, Chuck Baldwin, and then Tim Baldwin about where this is going.
Yeah, and I think that once we realize that we can make a difference, I think that will impact the way that we act. I think what a lot of people have, the attitude, unfortunately, is that it's hopeless, and there's nothing they can do. and they don't realize the power that they have as the citizenry of this country. I mean, whenever we find an injustice and we know what's going on, we need to do everything we can. We may not can do everything, Alex, but we can do what we can.
The globalists aren't going to tell us about all the victories we're having. They're happening all over the place all the time. We are actually having huge victories.
Absolutely, we are. And, I'm involved as you are, and we're doing what we can. But everybody out there that's listening can do something. Everybody can pick up a phone and call an AG's office and say, hey, what are you doing trying to sweep this under the rug? There's criminal activity going on in your state under your watch. You're the Attorney General of the state. It's your responsibility to clear this up. We demand that you honor your oath to the Constitution. Anybody can do that. Anybody can call the county attorney's office and say, you cannot get by with this. You cannot use people as manipulated cattle for your own particular purposes. And that's what they're trying to do. Think about trying to put somebody in jail for over 20 years of his life to get back at a lawyer who, because they don't like him because he's a constitutionalist.
Yeah, these people are not God-fearing.
The President of the United States of America. And because of that, your husband's going to go to jail for 20 years because we don't like the attorney that he has. Think about that. This is people's lives we're talking about. We're talking about people's freedom, Alex. That could be you. That could be your father, your mother, your brother, your sister, your wife, your kids. If they would do that to this man and his wife, they would do that to anybody else. People mean nothing. They're just using them as an agenda to promote whatever they want to accomplish inside that county. And we cannot allow that to happen. And everybody in this audience that's listening right now has the power to do something.
That's right. I'll put the phone number back up right now. We'll put that up and all. Montana Attorney General's 406-444-2026, 406-444-2026. And then we have the Flathead County Attorney up there as well. I guess he should just maybe resign. That police officer should resign. I don't know the point of calling them, but just maybe let them know we're aware of what's going on. But thank you so much, Chuck Baldwin, ChuckBaldwinLive.com. Is that the best website?
That's the best website, ChuckBaldwinLive.com.
For folks to visit. We got about 45 seconds. Tim Baldwin, constitutional lawyer, you close it out.
Well, first of all, Alex, let me just tell you, I'm not the first person to encounter these kinds of things in Flathead County. And in fact, I have a lot of support from what's going on. First of all, the attorneys that I work with, Phyllis and Jack Waltman, they've already been fighting these battles 15 years ago with the same prosecutor that we're talking about here, Ed Corrigan. They've had the same battles. I respect them greatly, and that's the reason why we actually joined up, was because we have a similar philosophy of protecting our clients' rights, and it brought us together. But they're not the only ones. There are attorneys throughout this county that have told me personally they know what I'm doing is right. They've experienced things like this before. For some reason, they may not have had the opportunities or have not spoken out as much as I have or Phyllis and Jack Baldwin.
I hear you. We're out of time. People just got to have the will to fight and take action. And these little battles are the big battle. God bless you all. See you back Sunday. Alex Jones here to break down some exciting developments in the area of research concerning supplemental iodine. It's nothing less than phenomenal. I began to get into iodine a few years ago because it was helping me and my family so much get healthy and detoxify. And I used some of the mainline iodine supplements and they upset my stomach and I had some issues with it. Until I discovered a product being developed by Dr. Group, who I was already interviewing as an expert on my radio show, and I began taking the product before he actually rolled it out. You now know it as Survival Shield True Nascent Iodine that your body can really absorb. Then, about a year ago, he said, listen, if you think this is powerful, I'm going to come out with rare earth, deep earth crystals that are incredibly powerful that no one else has as a source for their iodine from between 7,000 and 12,000 feet, literally drilled out of the ground. You put it on a hot plate and it turns into the pure gas. No one else has 99.99% pure iodine. And the results that I personally have had have been life-changing. I was over 270 pounds. And with the iodine, exercise, and better diet, I have lost now more than 50 pounds total, and I'm continuing to lose the weight. I have more energy, my libido, all this crap came out of my skin. I believe our research is conclusive. This is the best iodine out there. And I know this for a fact. Nobody else has got iodine based on these pure crystals, ladies and gentlemen. This is innovating. This is trailblazing. And the best part is it helps fund Infowars.com, the radio show, the TV show, the whole media operation promoting true libertarian ideas. For a limited time, experience the ancient power of Survival Shield X2. Take advantage of this unprecedented 30% off Super Detox special at InfoWarsLife.com.